Mr. Joe Karasin, welcome to Cup of Joe. How are you, man?
Good, Joe. How you doing? Is this the
Good.
most Joe you've had on one episode?
It's a double dose. I almost hesitate to say I'll let you drink just in case I actually catch you. Is it actually two Joes, one cup? I don't know.
I've got a cup. I think you have a cup though too. So I
Yes,
think
sir.
we're
I got
all right.
so
So two and two.
made from my sister-in-law's Etsy shop. So
Oh, nice. This is a Run the Jewels coffee mug.
nice. Yes. Um, Keeping it local. So Joe, you run. We'll start with some business and then we'll see where we go. Right?
All right.
You run Karasin PPC.
Yeah.
And I know what that means, but I feel like a lot of people don't, even in 2020, or fully understanding what PPC can mean. So before we talk about anything, man, let's talk about your business. Let's understand more about what you do and how you help other businesses, because that's really what you do is help us.
Sure. Yeah. So the Karasin part's kind of self-explanatory. Um, the PPC thing obviously it stands for pay per click for those of you that don't know, and what we're talking about there is basically digital advertising. Pay per click specifically usually refers to either paid ads you run through Google search or even on Facebook or any other kind of digital advertising network. Um, Pay per click is sort of the one thing I think that a lot of companies, whether it's real estate or mortgage or pretty much anybody, insurance, I think that like it's a very underserved piece of the marketing game, mainly because I don't think, and this sounds kind of arrogant, but I don't think a lot of people do it well. I think a lot of people do it, but I don't think that I think companies, like I talk to people all the time and they're like, well, that doesn't work. And I have to go, well, why doesn't it work? Well, I got bad results. I'm like, okay, well, what were they doing? And then, by the time you investigate, you turn out that they were going with uncertified providers. You can get certified through Google to do this, which I've done. And so that's one thing. The company itself we do a lot of other things too. We do search engine optimization, and we also optimize App Store profiles and YouTube channels. So we do a lot of the more organic stuff, also certified through Google to do that. And then we'll also run paid media through social, whether it be Facebook and Instagram, LinkedIn. I've done Reddit ads before for clients. A couple people have had me do Snapchat ads. So pretty much any social channel you think of, we also handle that as well. And so that's what we do. We utilize best practices to make sure that, our clients are getting served the best they can. We're results driven, data driven. Every client gets a monthly report of the metrics and where they were at, where they're at now, where we're going to take them, that sort of thing. We built it based on transparency. That was a big thing for me. So many digital marketing companies, they talk over their clients, with all these numbers trying to, I think, justify their things. And that's why my tagline is solutions, not excuses. We wanted to provide solutions for small businesses and not just, give you a bunch of information that you don't even know how to interpret in the first place. So,
And so, again, I have some background with this. I once was partnered in a moving company, and my partner, he has had a separate business since he was 16 or something like that. And outside of some word of mouth, he grew it through Google ads. Back then it was still called AdWords. It wasn't, no one really called it pay-per-click, anything like that, but that's what it was. And for his space, it was pretty cheap. So that was kind of cool. He could probably do, really low budget and get a pretty good amount of business. Well, anyways, so when we started the moving company, we didn't know anyone that was moving. So we just kind of did the same thing. We put the word out there, but we did AdWords. And I mean, we no sooner set up a phone line and the phone rang. And it was an amazing experience for me because at that point, I had never clicked on any ad ever in my life. Even on Google, I didn't trust it. And so I was surprised that this many people did. And through our 5 or so years of running that company, we kept that AdWords campaign running. And really, it wasn't until we were selling and we turned the ads off and the phone kept ringing. And I was like, damn, I wish I would have known how to analyze this information, so that I could have maybe either scaled back or, for that matter, kept the same budget, but, refocused or repurposed the correct terminology. And so you do that as well, right? That's part of the service. So I hire you, I want to sell these jackets, and I'm trying to get the word out there. And you help design not just the ad, but managing the rest of that process, because the ad's really the easy part, right? That's the first step, but that's the easy part, isn't it?
Yeah, I think most people, I think almost anybody who owns a business or is involved with a business in any way really could write a pay-per-click ad, whether it be a direct call ad like you just described, or a traditional kind of click to website ad, or anything like that. The copy is the easiest part of that ad, although I will say copywriting is sort of a lost art in the marketing world, but that's a whole nother story. Excuse me. And so, yeah, the trickier part of Google Ads is the targeting, the keyword research, the implementation of negative keywords into the process to make sure that you're controlling, because as you know, when, like, if you're running call ads, for example, you're not paying for the call, you're paying for the click. So when, if I'm using my phone here to look for something and I see an ad and it says, call 1-800, 555-1212 for moving services, and I click that, you got charged. Now it'll pre-pen that number in my phone, but then I may not call you. I might go, oh shoot, I didn't want to call them right now. I just wanted to see, and so you might get away from that. And so, understanding that, that process, understanding what, how to increase your impression share, or get your top impression share up, so that way, you're getting seen in that first few results. Because the majority of times you're not going to get that click, you're not going to get that web traffic, you're not going to get that phone call if your ad is buried on page 2, which can happen. A lot of people, I think, are under the impression that, oh, I paid, so I'm going to be at the top. It doesn't work that way. You have to be able to manage all the little intricacies of the ad itself to get yourself seen and thing. And I mean, ad copy itself, like I said, can be helpful. If you're using ad extensions, that's helpful for your ads. But understanding when to use those, how to use them, that I think is that's where I think the real meat comes in. And that's where I think I see a big difference between where a certified provider understands the difference versus somebody who doesn't.
Mm-hmm. Well, and yeah, we're not trying to demean the wording, the phrasing, the copy. That's important. And clearly we know that really great copy works better. But at the same time, if you have great copy and terrible remaining of the ad, then you're not going to get anywhere.
Right, exactly.
Now, the other part I think that's interesting from my understanding, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is a lot of times if I run a brand new ad, so I'm brand new to the service, not even Karasin PPC, but just brand new to pay-per-click service, my ad probably goes out more in that first, 7 to 10 days than maybe the next 20 days. I mean, is that accurate? Is that kind of true? I mean, is that we're going to only limit it to Google for right now? Is that Google's hook to be like, see, you've gotten, 3 website visits, 1 phone call, and, 2 things to fill out, whatever that's called, forms. And you've only been with us, you started on Thanksgiving Day, and look at it, 5 days later, to kind of hook you in? Or is that not really the case? Because it seems like it's the case, and I hear that's the case, but I'm not the expert.
So when you see something like that happen, what's really happening is that your bid control isn't very good. Is what understanding the bidding you're doing is really the other part of that process. There are automated bidding strategies you can run through Google. You can do things like, if you've got like a web form, for example, on your website, you can optimize for conversion so people fill it out, or like, that kind of thing. Or you can optimize for page loads on like a thank you page. So if somebody decides to purchase something, you can track purchases that way. You can optimize for conversion through phone calls, like we were just talking about. But if you're using automated bidding, sometimes you can run into a scenario like that where, it'll be gangbusters for a couple weeks, and then you're not going to see anything for a little while after that. And I don't think it's like a hook per se. Like, I'm not that much of a conspiracy theorist to think that it's like, oh, we'll give them a little, and then pull it back. But what I do think happens, though, is that there's a little bit of a limitation still, even in this day and age, to the machine learning that goes into that process in order to make it effective. So when I run pay-per-click ads, 99 times out of 100, I'm running manual bidding. Like, I'm controlling the bids. I'll be in your account, I'll be in the account every day, adjusting bids based on what I'm seeing in the numbers. Is this keyword performing well? What kind of search terms are being associated with that keyword? What what is it getting? A lot of clicks and not a lot of conversions? Is it getting a good number of conversions? Is it not getting any impressions? All the different numbers, you make your decisions based on that. And it's like, okay, well, this one's doing really well, so should we increase the bid or actually decrease the bid? Because sometimes it's best to decrease the bid on a high performing keyword, because why would you pay more if you can get your clicks for less? So it's understanding that process. That's where I see that happen most often. It's just like, either you're using automated bidding, you could be using the wrong kind of automated bidding. You could be using target impression share, which will make sure that you get to the top of the list, but that might not be the best thing for you. You might make sure that you want to focus on other things. It just depends on what your goals are in your marketing and what your advertising really, you're trying to accomplish.
All right. So we could probably try to break down every single aspect, but I can tell you, like, when I first reached out to you a couple weeks ago, it was because I'm running a YouTube channel, and I knew that it could use some help. So first and foremost, I don't know that I've ever signed the deal, during my show, but for sure you're hired. I don't know what I need to do to start the process, but
I'll send you an email after we wrap today.
Well, you sent me the pricing one, and then I was like, I guess I'll pay him. So, but I mean, like, the YouTube optimization, the search engine optimization, if someone everyone's got some limited budget, even Nike, even Amazon, right? Like, they have some limit around what they're willing to spend. Most of us aren't that size, so our limits are much smaller. I come to you and I say, here's my budget, and it's reasonable, whatever it is, right? So we can determine that, but it's a reasonable budget. Do we spread it across all these things, or do we focus on? Is search engine optimization in 2020 as big as it maybe was in even 2010? Because I feel like a lot of people don't go to websites.
Very good question. This is a heated debate in the search engine marketing world. So I don't know if you read something before this, or if you've just heard chatter. Okay, well, no, that's a really great question.
No research. I just come and
you just come with your natural genius. I get it.
Yeah.
So here's my personal take on it. I'll just give that, because that's really all I can speak to. What I see, what I experience. Really, when I sit down with somebody, and you saw it in the process, right? Like, I just kind of try to figure out what you need. What is it that you've got going on? What's your top goal? And what is it we need to do to achieve it? For example, one of my clients is a really, really well-known Midwest retail outlet. They sell a lot of different kinds of products. They have an online, store that people order their products through, get deliveries, the whole 9 yards. And, they came to me and they're like, hey, listen, our store gets really good organic traffic. But, we feel like we're losing out to our competition. So how do we make sure that like we're getting seen, because they did a search for their name and all their competitors showed up in the ads, I said, you guys want to get people to your site because you sell some of the same products, like Amazon and Target, right? Amazon and Target sell a lot of the same products. So when I'm online searching for that product, I might see Amazon, I might see Target. Because the products are so similar or are the same, I mean, unless they have some kind of crazy deal on it, I'm going to pay the same amount almost. So what's the difference? Is it the shipping? Is it what? Mm-hmm. So but if they're not even getting seen because they're getting trumped out by all these ads at the onset, then, so for that, we made a decision to go pay-per-click. They've been around for a long time, 28 years in business. Their organic presence is good. They don't need to worry about that too much. Similarly, if you are looking into if you're just looking to get, over time, if you're looking to build over time, search engine optimization is great. It's a marathon, not a sprint, but it definitely, having good SEO will help you because at the end of the day, an organic click will tend to convert into business. I think the last stat I saw was at like 437% more than an advertisement. So really the good SEO is important. Google, for whatever reason, has really updated their search algorithm in the last 2 years. They've changed the whole dynamic of it. And so understanding that your website, if you're not doing paid advertising, can start to fall down the list if you're not paying attention to the updates. So in 2020, is search engine optimization as important as it was? Absolutely. You kind of alluded to it earlier. I didn't click on ads because I didn't trust them. Mm-hmm. You're not alone in that. A lot of people won't trust an ad.
Sure.
A lot of people look at reviews before they do anything. That's why Google has Google My Business now, which is the local SEO kind of thing where, if you search a business and you see on the right-hand side, the map and, 50 Google reviews, how many stars, that's a big part of SEO is the local side of it. Most search is done locally. Most people look for store near me, restaurant near me, whatever it is. So there's still that component. So I think it is as important. I think it's gotten trickier. I think it's gotten a lot harder for businesses to really. SEO was supposed. I'm probably going off on a tangent a little bit here, but SEO was supposed to democratize the search process. It was supposed to make everybody on an even playing field. Problem is that they didn't really do a good job of explaining how to do it to everybody. And your big companies, your Nikes, your Walmarts, your everybody else, they invested a lot of money in hiring the best of the best to do this. Your small local business didn't have that kind of resource at the time, probably didn't even understand the process really. And so then, they lost out. And then once you get to a certain point, there's no overtaking the big boys. You're never going to be better than Walmart on a national level. Can you beat Walmart locally? Sure. Can you beat Zillow in your industry? Can you beat Zillow locally? Absolutely. Mm-hmm. And you don't necessarily have to do paid advertising to do it, but your SEO and your local SEO better be on point. Otherwise, you're going to have to invest at some point in paid advertising. It's just a matter of time.
Well, I remember, when, again, websites and even blog posts started kind of really becoming a thing, because it really wasn't the early 2000s. It was more the late and even mid, like the 2010s and stuff. And I can just think of, was it Microsoft Front Page? Is that where you can design a website? Is that the right? Or either way.
It used to be. It used to be Front Page.
Well, also back that. And so you'd say, oh, okay, cool. I'm going to go buy, front page for $100 or whatever, and then I'm going to develop my website, and then I'm going to be on the web, and people are going to find me. And then that didn't work, so you called somebody and they did like a WordPress website, and then that didn't work, and you called somebody and they did something else, and it was all sometimes because you weren't spending enough money, and sometimes because, like you say, maybe these things actually did work, but not in the year that you did them. They worked 2 years prior. And
Right.
because, like you said, SEO was not explained to anybody. It wasn't like, this is what we're looking for. And now, again, maybe this has changed, but now Google and even Bing and Yahoo and those other sites, they send their own little, I'm going to call them like bots, scrubbers out there looking for stuff, right? And they're like kind of reorganizing website listing priority based on what they find and if it meets what they're looking for. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's exactly what they're doing.
Yeah, which comes back to why 10 minutes ago I said you're hired, because I think I have a really nice website and I know that I need a little bit more. So I said YouTube at the time, but it's, it goes beyond that. And it's so important. I mean, and today, we're unfortunately driving, searching for things. And sometimes even, like I am in the, Metro Detroit area, obviously I know a lot of things in Novi, and yet I might see myself Googling restaurants in Novi as if I don't already know them. But I'm looking for something else, or I'm looking for something more, or I was going to go here and I decided, Cheesecake Factory still has a 2-hour wait. What else is nearby? And so, like you said, I'm Googling restaurants near me. And we're doing so much more on the fly, and we're doing it everywhere. I'm doing it on Facebook. I might search a restaurant. I'm doing it in Google. I might search a restaurant. It's like wherever you're at, man. It's crazy that, having these things specialized and really dialed in, I don't think it could be more important for almost any business.
Right. Absolutely. I've often told people, we need to figure out what your goals are first, as we talked about. But, at some point, you're going to want to focus on the organic side of this, whether it be early on, whether it be later. At some point, you're going to need this, because at the end of the day, the way the paid advertising game works is that, we've seen it. You saw it with Facebook a couple years ago. They got sued by the Department of Housing and Urban Development. And then all of a sudden, their whole ad platform for people in mortgage or real estate or other credit type things, it lost a lot of its luster. It's still effective, but not nearly as effective as it used to be. The targeting options just weren't there. And whether or not it was right to do that, I've got my own opinions on. But I don't really think that in 2016 or whenever that went down, that you had a whole lot of redlining going on. That was a process that was, taken care of in the 50s, and why it's important to why let's say a mortgage person, for example, is looking for people that could qualify for a mortgage. I don't understand whether or not that person is, whatever their other socioeconomic conditions are. Why can't they try to find that person? I get the other side of the argument. Don't get me wrong, but excuse me. It's been, but that's the thing. So you can have those kinds of things can happen, and then all of a sudden, where are you? How do you continue to compete? If they took away paid advertising tomorrow, which there's been a lot of rumors that Google may do that in the next 10 years.
Right.
They may find a way to do that if they're able to become the all-in-one source for everything, like they've been doing. They may stop paid advertising, and then what?
Right. Well, that's coming back to my industry, and I'll kind of touch on that HUD lawsuit too. But coming back to my industry, that's something I discuss with agents all the time. I don't care if it's Facebook, if it's Zillow, if it's postcards, whatever it is, you need to do some sort of advertising, but you also need to know how else you're going to get your business. Because if you're only doing if you're getting 90% of your business because you're on paying Zillow to send you leads, that's fine, except what's the plan? I mean, if you do 20 transactions this year and 20 transactions next year, you've got 40 clients under your belt. How are you going to turn any of those clients into some sort of repeat business? And if you have no plan, because things change, like you said, you know, especially in the tech world, which arguably is more on the social justice side of things. If we had to draw a line in the sand and said, are you on the, you know, more liberal minded or more conservative minded thought, that most tech is going to fall on the liberal side. And of course, there's a lot of blended lines in reality, but if we had the line in the sand, that's where they fall. And as we start talking about taking advantage of people and being overly capitalistic and stuff like that, you know, there's a lot of social consciousness going on. There has been, it's really ticked up. Our election process, you know, brought a lot of light to it. Documentaries like The Social Dilemma bring a lot of light to it. And there's a lot of other, you know, things going on. You seeing it, you know, if you have kids and they're addicted to TikTok or Instagram or something like that. You know, my own kid said for the first time the other day, you know, we're sitting there watching a movie and I see him and he's going like this. And a few seconds later, he goes like this. And then a little bit later, he goes like this. And I go, what are you doing? And he's like, well, I have a notification. And I'm like, I don't give a shit. Notification for what? Are you selling something over there? I'm like, are you making any money? You know, but it was because he's already got it now, right? It's like, and I want to break that early. And so the companies are going to potentially work with us to at least make us feel like they're breaking us of that habit. So things might change. And so you're right. You do need more than just a paid advertisement idea. To kind of touch on that, you know, HUD development, you know, you're right in the sense that the concept is to make sure that I can't advertise a house and eliminate Black people from seeing it or something like that. But, and I'm sure that there was somebody in the country that was doing that, because there's almost always some asshole doing something wrong. But if we just assume, not even assume, if we just go on just talking to people and people in my industry, like you said, if I have a $700,000 listing and a $100,000 listing, those are two different clients. And so, you know, likely while the 700 could afford the 100, likely they're not looking to purchase it. So there should be some ways to have some parameters where I can advertise to a group that is likely to be in the 700,000. And if HUD wants to create those groups for us, go ahead, right? Because if you want to make sure that I'm not assuming that because you're some minority or you're single or you're whatever, that you can't afford it, that's great. And I'm with you, because I'm sure there's people that feel that way. Oh, it's a single mom. She could never buy $1 million house. Why? You know, maybe the single mom is Tiger Woods' ex-wife. So, you know, right? I mean, she's a single mom, at least was. I don't know if she's really married. So, you know, Jeff Bezos's ex-wife.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yep.
Mom and
she could afford all of our houses twice over.
so you know, I can understand it, but it really was crazy. And I think the crazier part about it was not that. It was that it was only impacting Facebook and not therefore Instagram. I can go on to other websites and I can do some of the same targeting that I used to do that are even bigger for my industry than Facebook and Instagram are. And yet, you know, and then on top of that, it was like a $4 million website. It was like, you know, Facebook was like, oh man, looks like someone took $4 million from us. I don't know. I don't have time to figure it out. You know what I mean? $4 million of Facebook is nothing. So anyways, I just want to kind of pile in and make sure you understood that you weren't digging yourself a hole. You're right. There was a lot of issues with what they did. The concept is a good concept, but it didn't solve the problem.
Well, and if you want to talk about like changes like that maybe weren't so, you know, quote unquote controversial or anything like that, look at Zillow. Zillow is a great example in your industry. So you have this platform. It's supposed to be, you know, this great real estate source, and it is for all intents and purposes. It does a lot of things. So then they become a lead provider, and then all of a sudden they started getting into the cash for houses game, and they've gotten into the, yeah, I've heard of, there's been a lot of people talking about them eventually, like they have like a brokerage license or something, or they're looking at that and then hiring agents. And it's like all of a sudden now your competition essentially is now your lead provider.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, like that sounds like the most unhealthy digital marketing relationship you could ever come across. How would you even do that? So,
You know,
but when it first started, man,
Zillow, I always, I say, hey, good for you, right? But I also would say, why? You're giving money to a company that literally said that their goal is to put you out of business.
right.
They started with this concept of they wanted to be like a WebMD. And
Yep.
what they claimed was that people go to WebMD because they've got these symptoms and they're just trying to figure out should they go to their doctor. So
Right.
Zillow said the same thing. Well, we want you to go to Zillow and figure out should you call a realtor.
Right.
Maybe now is not the right time because you've done some research, or maybe now is the time because you've done some research. And that quickly changed to them saying that they basically wanted you to be able to have a one-stop shop where you can do everything. Mm-hmm. And so for the consumer, that may or may not be great because we don't know what happens when somebody becomes like a monopoly in something. But for the real estate agent, it just didn't make any sense as to why you would contribute to someone who said one-stop shop. It's like that one stop did not include you. You weren't part of the stop.
Right. Yeah.
So if you want to give them so they can be billions of dollars of money a year to do that, go ahead. I'm not. Now, I believe that something is changing for them because they are officially becoming a broker or have become one. And so there's issues, that are in our industry with a broker advertising another listing. They'll figure it out. But for right now, sounds like there could be some issues coming up in 2021. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just going to say too, and kind of circling back to all this, right? So one of the things that like Zillow can tell you when if you're an agent and you're looking to buy leads from somebody or find digital leads or whatever, Zillow can say, well, obviously they're high intent because they're looking at houses on our website, much like they're looking at houses on your website or looking at houses on any other real estate agent's website. But like that's sort of like where the paid search game is good for people, because that the intent's there because they were looking for something, right? They were on Google going, I need this, or I'm looking for this, or I want to buy this, and so your ad showing up at that time. So there's definitely like higher intent ways to advertise your business without having to give money to a behemoth like Zillow, for example.
Do you do some of the retargeting aspects of things for all industries as well? Like you're wearing a Michigan sweatshirt.
Yep.
And zip up. And hopefully Michigan's going to be hiring a new head coach sometime soon.
We're all hoping.
So can you develop, I mean, obviously I'm being a little facetious here, but can you develop a platform where once somebody searches Michigan head football coach, then they also start getting the zip up 3/4 zip, advertisement, because that's what I'm selling. So I know you're interested in Michigan so much so you're wondering who they're going to hire as a coach. And now, bam, you start getting these ads coming across, some social platform or whatever. Is that something that you're into doing or going to be doing or anything?
Yeah, that is something that we do. One of the things that we, you really base on your web retargeting. So it wouldn't be enough for somebody simply to just type it into their search engine. I mean, it can be. There's definitely like a place for that on the display network. And so you can utilize that tool. The problem with that is that isn't controlled by you entirely. That is an entirely different process that Google does in the back end. However, there are ways to do retargeting like that where, let's say somebody came into your website and looked at your zip up, right? And then said, nah, not right now. Then, they can leave, go to Facebook and boom, there it is. Or they can leave and go to ESPN.com and boom, there it is, right? Similarly, if somebody were to look at a product like your zip up hoodie, but not on your website, let's say they looked at it on Walmart.com, right? And then ended up, going away from there. Maybe they even bought it. Doesn't matter. Let's say they bought one. Then, you can have your ads display to those people with different products that might be related or even the same product or similar product. I'll give you an example. I bought a Christmas present for my girlfriend, and I bought it, completed the purchase, and then immediately after I left the store, checked out the whole 9 yards, I saw an ad for the same product, like right then, like it was probably 5 minutes later. That I think is like a more overzealous kind of way of doing it. I think that if you had a similar, like if that company had an accessory they wanted to sell me or something, that would make a lot more sense. And there's ways to control for that. So even then I would have, if I were doing their paid ads, I would have said, hey, maybe focus on the armrest thing or, whatever the piece is that's missing here.
Right.
Don't show people the same thing they just bought.
Right.
They're probably not going to come back and buy a second one based on the ad.
Right. Well, yes, there's a different ad, and this is where your expertise comes in to help the person that's hiring you, because in that instance, like you said, their ad after you've completed the purchase should have been an additional piece or maybe 10% off coupon or an advertisement for their upcoming sale or anything other than what you just purchased.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. I don't want to buy another one of these. I mean, maybe for somebody else down the road on a birthday, but I mean, I'm going to remember what I bought.
Right.
I'm not going to forget that.
What about like Domino's really set the trend here, and then I know other pizza places are doing it, and I have to imagine this works in other retail and service industries where you order the pizza, and then you go to your cart, and then you click the cart, and then it pops up and says, "Hey, do you want like some cookies? Or did you want our breadsticks or something like that?" And you're like, "No, I don't." And then sometimes it's even like, last time you bought them, or something like that. And like, is that also a service that you've got going on, or is that?
That's a web, like if you have an online store that people are purchasing things through, that would be more like a Shopify feature or something along those lines. I don't set up online stores primarily because it's something that I think is a little outside my wheelhouse in terms of my skill set. And I would never want to take on business that I couldn't, actually do. So I do know some good providers for things like that that I can refer people to. I don't get anything out of the referral. It's just I just know some providers that that do it. But I can always refer that to people who are looking for some sort of platform like that, where they go on to their site, and then based on the things that somebody's ordered, it's like, hey, you should do this, or hey, do you think you might want this? That kind of thing.
Sure.
But that's not something I do. If somebody has one of their platforms, I could probably log in and program that part of it. But to create something like that out of whole cloth, no, that's not something I really do.
Yeah, cool. I was just wondering, you made me think of it, and like I said, I've got no papers and an agenda here, so I was like, oh, yeah, I'll just fire away a question. Before I hit record, you're like, is anything off topic? And you got me like wondering for the last like 40 minutes or whatever. What did you want to know if it was off topic? Like, where were we?
Oh, no. I actually said there was nothing you had to, you had to hold back on. I didn't really ask, but no, I just didn't know, I mean, I figured it was I've watched a few of these obviously, so I kind of gotten the gist of how it goes. And, I just wondered if there was, I just wanted to let you know that like, I wasn't, I didn't come with an agenda.
Yeah.
I didn't come here necessarily to only talk about my business or to only talk about, my cat or whatever, got all that kind of stuff. So, no, yeah, whatever. I like I said, I think that the natural flow of the conversation is, I think that's the best way to do these kinds of things. So.
Yeah, I was like, I was ready to dive in, man. I was going to go grab that tinfoil hat or whatever we're going to do. But apparently we're going to, not go down that path. So maybe another time.
Yeah.
What's on the horizon for the future of this stuff? I mean, like, I know that's a big open question because we've talked about everything from websites being important or not, and SEO and YouTube optimization and social media. But I mean, like, it seems like in many ways it overlaps more than ever, and maybe, and also in many ways it's like not. But I mean, you go on someone's Instagram page and they have like a separate link that shows you all their links, and stuff like that. I mean, so like, where are we going, at least in the next 3 to 9 months, with updates, changes, anything like that? If they're not going to hire you and you were just offering them advice, what would you tell them to do?
I would tell anybody who, I mean, if you want to get specific to like real estate, for example, I would tell anybody who is trying to get more clients for real estate. I would say that I think YouTube is still a pretty open field. I think there's still a lot of space there. You're seeing people do it. They're not doing it particularly well. I think in terms of both the way that their channels are set up and other things, I think that there's still a reluctance on a part of a lot of businesses to really invest in it, mainly because I think they see it as more of like a kids playing on their tablets sort of a platform rather than an actual marketing platform. But I think the people that feel that way don't understand that YouTube is basically Google's video ad service. So if you're trying to run video ads through Google Ads and use that targeting platform, you still have to use YouTube to do it. You can't just upload a native video to the platform and do it. So I think that is one thing. Specifically toward things like pay-per-click, you're seeing a real shift into more automation from Google. They are really pushing some different automated type, whether it be the bidding strategies or the actual ads themselves. Now they've had this for the last year or two, but it seems to be like a little bit bigger push on their end. It's usually called dynamic search ads, where they create the headline and the copy for you based on your ad website, and they just run the ad. That I think is, I don't think they're ever going to go full on that unless they decide to stop like allowing third-party advertising altogether. But I don't think that'll be the case because they make way too much money doing it. I think that the search engine results page for SEO and for paid search is the thing that continues to evolve. When you search for something now, you see those like little snippets at the top, like, where it's like a featured questions type thing where you click the down arrow and it gives you a little bit of a blurb. I think that there's going to be, there's definitely a focus for most businesses now to get themselves featured there and how to do that. And that is, I think, going to become the new like competitions, like the biggest competitive space on the search engine results page, at least for the time being, until they increase something else or they change something else. But yeah, you've noticed, like, I think that there's going to be more and more focus on local. They're instituted this new local service program. I have a couple clients that we're in the process of getting them certified for that. It's a very long, kind of tedious thing. You got to have all kinds of information given over to them. And we're still probably like 2-3 months into this, and they still haven't quite gotten to the point where they've approved them. It'll give you a Google guaranteed badge next to your search result, which is, it's a nice little piece of social proof, I guess, or something.
Sure.
But you've got to be able to show people like, hey, this is what I do, and this is, I'm good at it, and blah blah blah. So I think that those are going to be the things that's the trend that's been happening. I think it'll probably start to just ramp up as time goes on. And I don't think there's anything really other than that. I mean, I don't see anything new under the sun, so to speak. There are just kind of better and worse versions of the same things going on.
Yeah.
And, whether that be, Facebook ads, whether that be, forced registrations on websites, whether that be, pretty much anything like that. There are just better and worse things out there that are all kind of geared at doing the same things. So what I tell people is like the basics are always going to are always going to work. Understanding, having yourself be sort of what we call omnipresent on all these different platforms is going to be even more important. So because people are on more and more things, they're on more and more platforms, they're on Reddit, they're on, Pinterest, they're on all these things. So it behooves you as an advertiser, whether you're in real estate or you're in mortgage or you're in any industry, it behooves you to try and become as present as you can on every single platform, or as many platforms as makes sense for you. So I think that is becoming more and more important. I don't think email marketing is changing anytime soon. I don't think Messenger is going to make email marketing obsolete. They've been saying that for 5 years and it still hasn't happened.
Yeah.
I don't buy that one bit. So those are sort of the things I think. I think there's a lot of marketing companies out there that try to really, really like give these sort of grandiose predictions about things that are going to change, and 9 times out of 10 they don't come true. And that's because I think the changes are so incremental, and they're so like kind of specific to certain things that it's hard to say that one thing is going to be the next big thing.
It seemed like 3 years ago, maybe, the messenger bot, that was the big push. You got to have a messenger bot. You got to have it both on Facebook and in your website. It has to be the same bot, be able to redirect people from one to the other, and all this stuff. And there was, like ManyChat still exists, and that was like huge. And there were guys that were really good with it, creating the basically kind of like an if-then statement for the bot to, go on. I feel like if anything, that's probably one thing that maybe it has not gone away, but it certainly didn't take the presence that we were told it would take.
I would on one hand, I think that like the sort of I think that like the AI powered bot, I think has definitely gotten itself into the marketplace. I think the problem with it is that I think it's still like a little too expensive to do like the full AI bot for so many small businesses. You can do like a click button type one where like, hi, my name is Steve and I'm, Joe's assistant. What do you need help with? And then, give you 4 options, right?
Yeah.
I think has become I think that's a good way to do that. It's sort of just basically giving your FAQ page a little bit of personality, in a way. But I'm not sure that the AI bot is going to anytime soon be something that every business is just going to be able to have, unless you've got a really good programmer on the back end of it. Do I think it'll eventually happen? Yeah, maybe, but I don't think any time in the next year or two.
Is Google Assistant still a thing? Like, that was another, AI program that you started hearing a couple years ago. We all heard that voicemail type thing for the salon, where the person and they completely booked an appointment for somebody, and people were both blown away and scared by that. It was probably around the same time as is this a blue dress or a yellow dress or whatever that was.
Yep.
I remember those two things almost coinciding. And so is that still a thing? I'm sure it's being developed, but because they're not going to just scrap it, but is it still popular?
There are restaurants using it. I think it was last Valentine's Day. I made a reservation at a restaurant in Northville, Michigan. For those of you that are not in Michigan, you don't know where that is. And they had it. They had the Google, they had the assistant make the appointment or the thing for us, or it made the reservation for us.
Yeah.
I guess would be the other way to put it. Like I put in the information and it called ahead for me and did all the work, which I thought was really cool. Like, I thought it was neat. I'm like, I could have this all day. I don't use iPhones. I'm sure you probably remember that whole
Yeah.
controversy. So I use a Google Pixel phone, and I have the Google Assistant on my phone. And one of the coolest things I have is that I can screen my calls with it. So I hit the button and it talks to them, it talks to people that are calling for me.
Okay.
And it, like, as I see a phone come in, it says screen call. I hit that and it says, "Hi, this is the Google Assistant, blah, blah, blah. Why don't you tell me why you're calling?" Then it gives me a voice, a text of the voice, what they're saying, and then it says, and then I say, I can say, like, I can hit like a tell me more button, or I can hit the, hey, this is spam button, or whatever. It'll deal with the whole call for you. You don't even have to talk to anybody if you don't want to.
Yeah, I have witnessed that a few times, if that's the right term, witnessed it.
Yeah.
Where I've called someplace and I've gotten that. So, you know, there's so much stuff, and there's probably so many things that are going on that we're not hearing about. And really, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, if you think about humanity and then you think about our current state of technology, we're still in its infancy, right? Which, again, going back to something I just said, scares some people and makes other people really excited because, I mean, the internet, so to speak, really just came out 30 years ago.
Mhm.
You know, uh, the explosion of the internet really just happened 10 to 15 years ago. So it's like, in the grand scheme of things, that is really no time. Now, it's accelerated more than anything. The internet has evolved way more than, say, the automobile did in its 30 years. But, it's still, there's so much coming out, and I'm somewhat techie, just not nerdy enough. So, like, I think a lot of it's cool. I always joke and say I can't wait for an autonomous vehicle because I'm sick of driving, some of that. And I know plenty of people that are on the other side of that coin, that will never, if they can avoid it, never own an autonomous vehicle.
Right.
So, it's interesting, but it's all, it's all cool. We need people like you to help us, make our businesses better with these new technologies.
Yeah, I try my best to stay on top of it. I think that understanding, what's going on out there, and what I think, and trying to assess it, right? Like, I guess if somebody hires me, I become also partly consultant, right? So I do, people will say, "Oh, I found this. Is this cool?" And I'll have to say, in my experience, that isn't like the best tool, or, yeah, that's a great tool. Let's use it. So I play that quite a bit with some clients. It just sort of depends on on what their needs are. Again, I think that, like, instead of trying to force people into doing certain things that I know work, I try to figure out what it is that they need, and then I try to make what I know how to do work for them.
Sure.
And that, I think that's the one of the big things that's missing in my industry sometimes, is that, if you talk to a big agency, they've got a whole plan for everybody, and it doesn't matter if you're selling cars, or you're selling shoes, or you are a house cleaner or a landscaper or whatever. They're putting you in that same process. It doesn't always work for everybody. Does a landscaper really need a super comprehensive website? Probably not. Probably needs a landing page and some ads. Most
Yeah.
people call that person before that, that kind of thing. Real estate agents, do you guys need, comprehensive websites? Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
You guys deal with a tremendous, amount of data on your sites alone, just with your IDX feeds. So there's, those kinds of things. And it's understanding those things about the business that you're working with, and then being able to find solutions for what they need and that work best for them. I had a towing company, they did towing, and they bought junk cars, and they were, they liked the junk car business. They were, they'd make like $400 or $500 every time they bought a car. They'd make a certain amount for it. But one of the things we did for them was we expanded their emergency tow service, and we actually bought phone ads for the emergency tow service. And they were getting calls left and right in the wintertime. People needed to get pulled out of ditches, dragged to body shops, things like that. And I think they said that their overall, like, revenue in the emergency tow went up like 60 or 70%, just in that year. So there's definitely some ways to find, like, okay, what is it about your business that we can do that makes it work for you?
Yeah.
And what areas of your business can we help you grow? So that's the kind of thing that you get when you work with, an independent provider versus like a major agency, I think.
For sure. And to your point, every business is different, because when I need a service like a plumber, electrician, and installer, I really just need to know how to get a hold of them, maybe read some reviews or something like that. But meanwhile, if you're installing, light fixtures, maybe I need to see those light fixtures on your website. Maybe I don't, so like, and that's where the consulting portion of your business is so important, and so we've kind of started down that process, and we'll continue it, and grow more together. But I don't know anybody who could possibly be in any business that is not listening, tuning in, whatever, and thinking, I should probably give like him, or at least somebody like him, a call, because everybody could grow a little bit more, assuming you want to, by, changing something, because there's no way everything you're doing today is, tip top shape.
Sure. I mean, that's one of the things we've learned even from big companies. They adapt and change better than everybody else. And that, staying alive in your market and your industry is tough, and being able to compete on the same fields, to compete on the field of, the digital landscape is important for every business. So,
well, Joe, I'm glad that we didn't crash the system with this much Joe. And is definitely the most that we've had, and presumably the most I'll ever have, unless I start doing 3 people at a time, and they're all.
I was going to say, yeah, you could have a round table of Joes,
and stuff like that. So I appreciate your insight, your knowledge, your willingness to share, all that good stuff, man.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you having me on. It's nice to be able to chat about this stuff with people and sort of it's interesting getting questions. I like the questions people ask sometimes. And you asked some good ones today. So thanks. I appreciate it. And I'll shoot you an email. I've never been hired on a talk show before. So that's the first time I've ever had that happen.
Well, and for future guests, I'm not going to hire everybody on talk show. Anyways, but Joe, like I said, really do appreciate it. And look forward to talking to you off camera and getting that email and moving forward, man.
Yeah, good talking with you, Joe.
Thanks.